Feroze Azeez, Deputy CEO, Anand Rathi Wealth. Feroze, good morning. Thank you for being here with us on this very important day. Now, one expects that markets run on sentiments, and sentiment in the country has been weak since yesterday afternoon when reports of this terror attack in Pahalgam first emerged. Despite that, we are seeing markets in the green this morning. I thought you told me markets don't like negative news and markets don't like surprises. This is as surprising and as negative a news as it gets.
Good morning, Karthik. I personally think that there are news which are very correlated to capital markets. There are news which are not so correlated. Of course, the sentiment from a human capital lost, people, innocent people dying is such a pity and such a thing to condemn. From a capital market standpoint, they take the cues from what happened over the US, which was good last night. Point one. Point two, as you see, Indian markets were completely sold by the US guys about not just the US FIIs, but all global FIs as well. We had given away about 4 lakh crores. A small portion of that came back in. And I've also told on your show numerous times, FIIs are price inelastic. When they start buying, they don't look at price. So I think this event is a very, very shocking event. Very sad that something like this, which was almost at bay, suddenly you see terror attacks happening again, which I think is so sad that we've gotten back in time. Looks like the 90s again, or at least 10 years behind. So that's a very big loss of hope that Kashmir is going to be a little more peaceful state. That's gone completely. If I had to travel to Kashmir now, I think 10 times more than I would have about just a week time back. So I personally think it's a very sad story. Like you said, it's a very important day because we lose our people, our fellow Indians. I think it's a very important day. No taking away from that. But capital markets have taken its cue from the US.
And I want to understand from you, Feroze, what happens if India does go ahead now with some sort of a response? Now, we don't know the extent of what that response would be, but there is enough and more reason to believe that there is going to be a response nonetheless. So if India goes ahead with a response, I remember 2019, 27th Feb, if I'm not mistaken, when India went ahead and those Mirage 2000s had hit Balakot. Sensex had dropped about 500 points and Sensex was trading below the 40,000 levels back then. It was more than a 1% drop in Sensex. If India does go ahead with some sort of a military response, what do you think the mood of the market would be then?
I think that, yes, the mood of the market will get dampened if there is some degree of progress on that side. But I think about 5, 10, 12 years back when things have happened, that time it was Pakistan was on a different footing. Now I think it's at a significantly weaker footing than it used to be. So I think that's why if you're fighting China, it's a different story. If you're fighting Pakistan today, vis-a-vis 15 years back, I think it's no more clash of the titans. So I personally think that that's why I don't think the markets will react as much. If you're fighting a tariff war with the US, you will have a larger capital market impact than an actual war, which I hope we give a strong response, but hope there's not more civilians lost or even Indian army personnel lost in the war.
Absolutely, that would be the hope. But tell me also, Feroze, are terror attacks adding to the risk of investing in India, and is that something which is going to impact foreign flows coming into the country?
Isolated instances of predictable nature, because that's happening in Kashmir. If there was a terror attack in Mumbai, which would be reasonably unique, I think that will have an impact. Anything which you would always have had Kashmir as a problem area when it comes to terror attacks, something like that happening there is not as unexpected. But of course, the scale at which it has happened is definitely unexpected.
So, Feroze, what do you make of J.D. Vance there saying that India and US must work closely together and should work on increasing trade, and India buying more of US energy exports? This at a time when, of course, Prime Minister Modi has cut short his visit from the Saudi Arabia, and Saudi plus Russia happen to be bigger energy import markets for India. What do you make of J.D. Vance's statement there?
I think he has a valid point. We can move our energy purchases from Saudi and Russia to the US. Of course, we buy a lot of defense equipment from the US, and it is best in class. There's no denying whatever the Vice President said. Point two. Point three, I personally think that if you look at the trade deficit which we have, with the US is $50 billion. China has $370 billion. I've always maintained the stance that this tariff war is what I think is a dream come true for India. From a shake-up standpoint, will India capitalize on it? I don't know. Will we become a reasonable China plus one? We don't know. But this is the only opportunity to become China plus one. And that's what every Indian has been praying for, or every capital market enthusiast has been praying for. Now, if you're getting a larger probability of that happening, you can't crib about that probability. Now there is going to be collateral short-term damage. When you unsettle something, there's going to be muddy waters. When that sediment settles is when you will know where India is finding its place. And I think India will surely find its place in global trade better than where it was, because we didn't have too much to lose from a manufacturing standpoint. IT, I don't think there are tariffs coming. Pharma, which again we have some exports there, there's not too much tariff coming, because US government itself spends on pharma, or medical care of its people. So
Right.
there's no point for tariff.
But
So
I remember President Donald Trump saying that pharma tariffs will come like the kind never seen before. So I wonder whether he means high tariffs or low tariffs, the kind never seen before.
Karthik, Trump, I think he says something and does something. Unless you're reading his tweets, which are far more consistent, I
His
think
Truth
there's no such
Social post,
conversation.
for that matter.
Absolutely, I was writing down the inconsistencies between what was said and written, and I can share someday 10 of those.
Right.
But I think the tweets are more closer to what he's actually thinking.
All right. Well, let's leave it at that this morning. Feroze Azeez, always a pleasure having you with us here on News 9.